That's good.
A few people new to the club, one of the lessons of Johnny's speech is that when you're speaking and you go to take something from your pants, you want to know where it is. And where is it? That was my takeaway.
Or do you?
Not me personally. I have been on my feet speaking full time since March of 1996. Sometimes for tremendous amounts of money, as much as $75,000 in one day. For 3 years, from 1996 to 1999, it was not unusual for me to be in a different city every day of the week, speaking for a minimum of $5,000. Absolute minimum. Would not get on my feet for less than that. And I was typically in a Fortune 500 company or a Tech 100 company doing that. So I'm almost 20 years into speaking full-time. And this contest that I just did forced me to think a lot about what it is I'm doing and where this 5 to 7 minute task fits in the spectrum of speaking that we bear witness to. You go to church, you see someone behind a lectern or a podium. There are all these different ways that people speak. Mm-hmm. So I have defined a new genre of speaking that I call extreme speaking. And I think this is something that will connect with everybody in the room, but I'm specifically concerned about connecting with the 4 of you on this side, not Johnny, but the 4 of you, because you're new here. And I want you to know, by the time I get to the end of this 10 minutes, what a big deal it is that you are here. So I want to start by defining the Toastmaster opportunity. Toastmasters, to my mind, is defined by 2 distinct opportunities: the meeting and the contest. And the meeting and the contest can be easily distinguished in this way, in my opinion. The meeting is you put down your money, $10 a month, whatever it is, it's practically free, it's a nominal fee. You put down your money, you buy a ticket to the sandbox. And I would suggest that this is not public speaking, that this is private speaking, that we are all in a long-term relationship together, everybody is supportive, we come in here, we play nicely in the sandbox together, we pay our money. The contest is conceptually distinct. The contest, the public puts down their money. The contest is a public event. People buy a ticket to that event. And my worst fear when I get on stage where someone's put down their money to see me, whether it's $6 or $75,000, my worst fear is somebody's going to walk out of there and say, boy, that is 7 minutes or an hour or 90 minutes, I wish I could get that. Mm-hmm. That's my worst fear. So that's Toastmasters. Now I want to define, for the purposes of this conversation also, what I believe is the difference between a speech and a reading. A lot of people were inspired when Steve Jobs gave that graduation speech. I think it was at Stanford or wherever it was. Mm-hmm. I say that was not a speech. I say it was a reading. I say if you're behind a podium or a lectern and you have a script or notes or outlines or any kind of prompt, that's a reading. It's not a speech. A speech, to my mind, is anyone standing alone in space, as Johnny and I have done today, with no net, nowhere to hide. And you are alone, and you are in front of an audience between 2,000 and 2,000 people, whatever it is, and there's no place to hide, right? You've been in these contests, you know. There are 2 performances in the last nearly 20 years that stand out in my mind. One is a performance I gave in July of 2010 in a studio theater in DC, 300 people, sold out Saturday night. Hands down, the best 90-minute performance of my life, my one-man show, Fool for a Clown. And the other is this 7-minute speech I just did in this contest. This contest task will humble your ass, no matter, because there is a balancing act that I have in common when I do a one-person show. When I do a one-man show at a theater festival, or I do a speech contest, the three goals are exactly the same. Number one, take care of the audience. That's number one. Number two, nail the truth. Number three, win. Win the festival, win the contest. And my goal when I'm in an environment, when the goal is to win, my goal is to suck the air out of the room and make it impossible for someone to follow me. Unless I'm last, and then my goal is for them to forget everybody before me. And the preparation for the speech contest for me is I assume one of my competitors is going to be the future world champion. And that's true whether I'm doing it at the club, area, division, district level, whatever. That is my assumption, and that is the mercenary nature of this contest because it's win or go home. Unless something were to happen to number two. But that would be a shame. The beautiful daughter you had there would be a shame. Extreme speaking. Let me list for you examples of extreme speaking from, in my opinion, the easiest to the most difficult. The easiest example of extreme speaking that I know is the Toastmaster meeting speech. It is a safe, private environment, and you can come up here and you can bomb all day long, and nobody's going to care. You can just check your ego at the door and just get up here. And nobody's going to care how it goes. They're going to say nice things about you. They're going to give you a couple pointers of how you can do better. But it is an extreme example of speaking because you're in space alone with no net. The next example beyond that is the TED Talk, in my opinion. The TED Talk is a very controlled environment. People coach you. Their performance is discouraged. It is a talk. And the person who is known for getting the longest round of applause in a TED Talk is a guy named Brian Stevenson, who is an attorney who works for the Equal Justice Institute in Alabama, and he works trying to get people off death row, and a lot of people call him America's Nelson Mandela. And he came out, and he does not like public speaking, and he just stood there. But the power of the idea, when he was done, was the longest round of applause of any TED Talk. The next most difficult task of extreme speaking, in my opinion, is stand-up comedy, poetry slams, storytelling, where you go into a venue and nobody knows you. It's a public venue, people put down their money, and your job is to try to connect with them in 10 or 15 seconds and hold them, even though they've never met you, even though they might be drinking, even though they might be more concerned with who they're going home with when you're done, and to try to get a laugh or connect with those people. That's a very difficult task, and unless you're known, that task usually is going to be 10 minutes or less. Very difficult. Beyond that is the corporate keynote of an hour, where you're not behind a lectern, you're not behind a podium, you are out there in space, talking to people, having a conversation. And even with that, I would say is the one-person show in a theater environment. These are very difficult tasks. So these are examples of extreme speaking. So I hope that those of you who are Toastmasters will understand what a big deal it is when you get up here for 5 to 7 minutes and stand alone in space with no notes and just accomplish that task. That's a big deal. It's a huge deal. Very few people do that. President Obama doesn't give speeches. He does readings. He's always on prompter. Always. It's carefully scripted, carefully orchestrated. So when you do these short tasks in this club environment, that is a huge deal. And you are on your way to becoming a great extreme speaker. And the benefit of that is if you can pull off this little task, everything else, by comparison in life, seems quite easy. Because it is an extreme experience, an extreme sport, I would respectfully suggest. And when you commit yourself, good things happen. A lot of nice things have happened on the flip side of this contest. Even though I didn't get first place, I've been invited to do a keynote. I've been invited to speak at about 10 clubs. And some other nice things have happened out of that. But the best thing that happened is the people who private messaged me, the people who came up to me, and the people who were inspired. Right? This is a big deal. And there's no money involved. But this is a big deal. Right? And however you look at the blank page, the blank stage, the blank screen in your life, however that metaphor resonates for you, however you decide to commit and bring yourself to the world and inspire others, that is a very big deal. Mr. Toastmaster.